Guess who's back, man? We're back here to do this floor. I already cut out one piece on camera, which you would have seen in episode 2, I believe. Episode 2, something like that. But yeah, I already cut one piece out, and it looks like this. So I'll just put a small bend on it, and we're also going to bend it this edge upwards, going up on the floor. So, and you can see, floor curves up at the back. So we need to put a slight curve on the end of this, just to match it up to the floor. And we're going to cut a notch into here so we can bend this part up as well. Obviously you have to notch it. I don't have anything strong enough to bend it without notching it, so that's the plan. So let me try my best on making this the form I want. So what I'm going to use is just a regular set of pliers, nothing fancy, just some regular pliers to bend the lip up. And then for this piece here, just going to slot it with a grinder and then do the same procedure with the pliers. So there'll be plenty enough. We'll be able to spot weld the little slot parted, slotted, or whatever the hell it is, slotted part. We're going to be able to spot weld that on, and then also spot weld the rest of this lip onto the inner sill. So obviously we have the support on the floor, which is what we need. All right, so we've got our panel bent up. We also have it drilled. Just in the process of copper priming this seam now, with a slight angle on it for where we need it. And the floor is ready to be welded for the front section. I've primed the inner sill where we're going to be welding with some copper primer, for that protection. So I'm going to wait for this primer to flash off, and then we're going to see if we can get this panel welded in today. This should be nice and easy. There's loads of access, and yeah, so let's get that panel in. Check you out in a bit. Alright man, Jermaine on the voiceover cam here. So first things first, we're going to position the piece of steel for the floor in the right position that we want it, and we're going to now tack it in. We're going to start off with 2 tack welds somewhat central in the piece, and then we're going to work our way to the corners, supporting those to make those level with the floor that we're actually welding to. Now we've tacked it in, we're fully ready to weld it in. As you can see, I'm pointing out the rather large gap on the left, which is not really a problem. We're going to be bridge welding that. With this kind of sheet metal, you really have to be careful the way you weld it, so you can't put too much heat into it, otherwise you'll blow through it. Especially with the original steel that Nissan used, it's very easy to blow through, so it's not too much of a problem with the new steel that we're welding in, even though both are the same thickness at 0.8 mil. Obviously with the older steel, it has aged, so it's not as good to weld, but you really just have to be careful with the heat buildup. I'm using a 0.6 mil welding wire here, and I'm welding on the minimal setting on the welder, so I don't have an amperage setting. I welded on min 2, so that would put it at a 2 out of 4 in terms of power setting on the welder. And as you can see, I'm trying to space my welds out to distribute the heat within the panel, so I'm not just running one thick bead along and warping the whole thing and blowing through. I'm trying to distribute the heat in the steel to make it easy to weld and also stop it from blowing through. Bear in mind, I'm welding all of this without a mask because it's under the dash, so I can't actually fit my head under there. So bear in mind, if the welds ain't too pretty, I am kind of doing the welding blind. There's no real room for me to fit my head down there with a mask. So I just wanted to clear some of that up, fill you guys in on how I'm doing it, what kind of materials I'm using, and the settings of my welder. It is really easy, it's just a lot of practice, so you can carry on enjoying me watch this and weld this. And yeah, you're going to see me bridge the gap as well, which is going to be quite a big job. Welding up the rest in the corner there. The welds don't look too shabby, do they? They look alright for someone who's welding blind with no mask. Underneath a dashboard with minimal space. I mean, I can barely fit in there, which is kind of funny. But you can see the shape of the floor is really nice. Everything fits really good. And now we're getting to bridging that section. So we're just using the hammer to tap it all level, make sure that everything's good, and we're going to start off with the corner. The reason I start with the corner is because the corners like to lift once you start getting a bit of heat into them. So you really want to fix the corners first and then carry on with the bridging. So I'm bridging here now, and the way I like to do it is I like to build up a weld from each side and then use a connecting weld in the middle. So one weld on the right side, one weld on the left side, and then weld in the middle to bridge it all together. As you can see, I'm doing here, I am using a variety of techniques. I'm not just using that technique. Sometimes I'm using left, right, and sometimes using left, center, right, and stuff like that. It really depends on your preference. Once you've bridged it, you can actually weld over it again to get the heat into it nice and hot, to actually penetrate through the whole thing again, and then you're ready to grind it down. Alright, front section of the floor is now done, and now we're gonna mock up this rear section, make a piece out of cardboard to get it in there. See our front piece in there? It ain't going nowhere. So we're making a big piece now, and once the big piece is in, the front corner is actually completely done, which is interesting. So we're gonna have a floor again. We're gonna be able to put our feet down there again, you know, so we can drive. I can't even drive the car now because I have to hold my legs up and shit if I wanted to. So we're gonna get this floor finished. I already have a cut off from that I took out, which is this piece. But I don't know if I'm gonna use that. I don't know if you guys can see. See, it's already pitted. It looks horrible. So even though it would be nice to keep this, you can see how ruined it is from previous shit. So I think the best bet is just to replace this whole section. Just make an entire full piece for that. So gonna cut out some cardboard. Not gonna show you guys that because it's boring. I'm just there cutting cardboard and that. So let me just cut the cardboard, show you the finished shape of the cardboard, and then probably cut out some steel and try and remake that cardboard shape, and then get our floor done. Want to get that done ASAP. So yeah, let's go. Look at that. Our floor piece is in there. Don't mind that gap. That's only because it's not pressed up, but it does fit nicely. Also, we have our 90-degree bend in the cardboard. This is not just a straight edge, so this bends down like normal. We go forward, and it goes up to where it would overlap. Obviously, we can adjust that as we actually cut out the metal, but this is pretty good. I'm happy with that. And that side, but that side doesn't. I mean, I didn't have a cardboard piece that was wide enough, so that's gonna have to do. But I can figure something out to leave that there. Maybe just cut this a bit longer in the steel and then do it once it's in steel. But the main shape of the floor is there, and I have to say, looks pretty good. I like the Nissan paper as well. The Nissan cardboard, man. So it's already matching. So I think the next step is we'll cut out some cardboard. Well, we don't cut out cardboard. We trace the cardboard onto the steel, which we got over there. And once we get that cardboard traced, cut it out to steel, cut stuff, more stuff, bend stuff, and then get ready to weld stuff. So that's really the plan here.
That's very point.
Bending panel. Goddamn camera decided to cut, but we got our piece done, and we got our bend in there. We're now ready to test fit this panel and trace what we need to cut extra. So that's it. I think we'll leave that for the next episode. You can tune in for the next episode. We're welding the floor, and that's going to be that. So make sure you tune in next time. Peace. Psych! I lied. So you're gonna get your Christmas special. So we're actually gonna combine the two episodes into one: the front section of the floor and the remaining shape of the floor. So you're gonna see me finish the remaining shape of the floor in this episode as well. So enjoy. Alright, so it's about 2 hours later and I finally finished, prepped the panel, prepped the car, and we're pretty much ready to weld. So I've got the panel here, copper primed this part, which will be overlapping onto the floor piece we did last time. Copper primed the section that goes onto the lip for the sill, and then also copper primed the section of the floor that we previously welded in. So what I'm going to do now is I might get a jack underneath just to hold it somewhat into position, and then I'm just going to make my way and tack it in corner by corner just to get it into the right place. And once we've got it into the right places, holding it in, we can go ahead and weld it in fully. Ready to weld the panel in. We don't need the jack to hold it up. I'll be able to just hold it by hand and tack it in. Great fit, by the way, as you can see. I'll get it up into position. There we go. And then the back end fits really nicely as well once you press that in. So we're gonna hold that into place and tack it in now. Look at that. That's our floor piece in. Hey, we got a floor again, man. Yeah. We got a floor again, baby. Oh yeah, we got a floor. 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 Alright, less joking around. Let's get this piece welded in. Yeah, man. Alright, so now we finished welding. Now comes the cleanup process. This is by far one of the most time consuming and annoying things to do, but if you do it correctly you will get a really good finish, bearing in mind you've done a good job in welding as well and gotten good penetration. So I like to initially start off with a grinding disc just to flatten off the welds initially, and once we've flattened the welds down and made them somewhat level, we can then go over the welds again with a flap disc to somewhat blend the welds into the surrounding metal. Ideally you'd want a completely flush finish, but being that this is such a big panel and I didn't really care about doing a perfect job, I don't 100% blend it, but we do get an amazing result. So make sure you keep watching just to see that. Enjoy. Alright, now we have gone through the process with our grinding disc, and we've also gone through the welds again with our flap disc to blend them in. Now we're going to have to prep the whole surface, get it all ready for primer so we can seam seal it after that. So what I'm using is, I'm just using a regular DA sander with some 80 grit and a 120 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to go over all of the surfaces with that sandpaper on the DA. You can also blend the welds with that quite nicely as well, so I do go over the welds to make it look a bit nicer, and I go over the surrounding areas just to scratch everything and make it get ready for paint. Also get it ready for some more rust converters in the areas that might need it. I'm going to go over all the welds with some rust converter just to make everything as protected as possible before we put the primer on. Of course, don't forget, after the sanding, make sure you wipe everything down with some spirits. So you can either use a normal degreaser or some thinners. I like to use some paint thinners. Clean out the whole area, make sure everything is nice and clean, and then we can go ahead and apply our rust converter and seal everything up with that. Mixed up some epoxy primer to put in the small paint gun, and we're gonna start painting that. All masked up, you see. Paint that all up so it's protected, and then we're finished with the floor pan. I mean, that's some progress right there. That was a lot of work. That really was a lot of work, but I mean, it looks good now. And once we get the primer on, we get the seam sealing it, and that front corner is fully complete. So I gotta say, that was a big job complete. So let's just get that primer on, and I'll take you along with that. Most likely not going to do the seam sealer today because the primer needs to cure. I want to give it enough time to cure and stuff like that. I don't want to really rush it with a heat gun. So we're going to get the primer on and see when we can get the seam sealer on, but we'll see about that. So let's get on with that job, and you're going to see me enjoy with the gun inside the car, nice and crammed. So let's see that. So, the driver's side front floor has finally been finished. So we're finally complete. I'm still here. It's pretty late out, so I decided to wait for the primer to dry. I've got the heat going on it a little bit. Got it nice and dry, and now I've just seam sealed it, and that means we are now completely done with this corner of the car. That's 1 out of 4 done. I'm really impressed with that one. So let's have a look here. Got the seam sealer running along the seam that we made, going up into there, and then running across the inner sill and the floor pan. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, leave a comment for the algorithm on YouTube, subscribe if you ain't subscribed. Next episode, we're probably going to start digging into the rear driver's side floor, see how that comes out. Might be a little crispy, but we'll be able to sort it out, no problem. Looking forward to that. I'm really relieved now that we've got the floor done on this side. On the front, I can actually get in the car again, you know, and have it feel like a car. It's kind of a crazy feeling now to have this complete. See, it's almost like a normal car again. Well, I guess it is like a normal car. The chassis rail needs to come next as well. Now we built the floor up, we can actually build up the chassis rail as well, which obviously we're going to do that as well. But we're going to find out in the next episode. That'll be good fun, won't it? So make sure you tune in. Peace out.